Welcome to the National Minority Supplier Development Council's Equity in Business podcast. I am humbly John Daniel, happy to be here, but I'm really thrilled about our guest, Ms. Celeste Warren, who is the Vice President of Global Diversity and Inclusion Excellence Center at Merck. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for coming. You know, we had a great session with one of your colleagues last year, and we couldn't wait to talk to somebody else. We want to talk to him again, too. But Raul did a great job.
He's a great person.
Yes, indeed. This is a conversation. It's a conversation that's important concerning diversity, equity, and inclusion, but it's one in which people, human beings, have to converse with each other. Conduct, conversation, and character mean something here. And so, I really want to let you just flow. But first and foremost, so our audience knows, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how all this came about with Merck.
Oh, gosh. I am from a small steel mill town in western Pennsylvania. And, I didn't grow up saying, oh, I want to be this corporate executive, or I just knew that there was a calling out there for me. And so I ended up, my father was the first black teacher, first black principal in that region. And so every day he would come home from work and my mom would say at the dinner table, how was your day? And that became a lesson in diversity, equity, and inclusion, because I had a front row seat to the challenges that he was facing as the first black man in that environment, and then what he did to overcome them. So as a child, it was ingrained in me, the things that we need to be doing to create equal access to everybody. So I learned from an early age, and it just sort of stuck with me throughout my childhood, my high school years, my college years, and then into adulthood. And so I never really wanted to do this job, truth be told. And the reason why is because I'm so passionate about it. I always would bring this to whatever job I was in. And so many people remember Willie Dees. Mm-hmm. And when he was the head of Merck's manufacturing division, I was his HR business partner. I was the head of HR for our manufacturing division. And he and I were having a great time in manufacturing. We were just going around and doing work around diversity, equity, and inclusion within the manufacturing division. And so at one point, 10 years ago, my then boss, Miriam Gradick-Weir, she said, Celeste, I know how you feel about taking on the head of diversity role, but it's something that we really want you to do. And I said, well, who's we? And she said, well, Ken Frazier and I really want you to take this role. You're a person that can get things done, and we need that right now because this isn't the legacy that either one of us want to leave with the company. And I thought, oh, okay, well, here's my out, because Ken is a busy man, he's a CEO, and he's not going to be able to talk to me probably for weeks, so I can backpedal out of this. And I said, great, oh, Miriam, yeah, that'll be great, I'll talk to Ken. And she said, okay, so she grabbed my hand and walked me down to Ken's office that moment. And so Ken and I had a great conversation. It was a very, very good conversation. He's an inspirational person, a motivational person, and he's a challenging person. And so he challenged me, and needless to say, a half hour later, I was in this job.
Wow. So he influenced you.
Yes, and still does to this day.
I love it. One of the things that is really important in this kind of conversation is your relationship in the position you hold, the leadership position you hold at Merck. What's your relationship? Why do you continue? How do you engage with the National Minority Supplier Development Council?
Oh, this council it's a godsend for minority business owners. It is something that allows for a sense of community, for them to come together, learn from each other, network with corporations. And that type of a forum is needed, especially in this day and age. I get email from the council, I'm sure you're on their mailing list as well, and they're hitting the issues and the challenges that minority business owners face all the time, and they're attacking it head on. not just within from a business realm, but from a DE&I realm, because we're being attacked. This DE&I, anti-DE&I rhetoric that's out there, it's not just attacking it from a talent perspective and people perspective, but they're attacking minority business owners in the way that we're looking at how we're doing our supplier diversity programs, corporations all over the nation. And so it becomes really important that we all lock arms and say, we're not doing this for philanthropic purposes. You know, we believe that when we partner with minority-owned suppliers, they're qualified, they're certified, and they can meet all the qualifications and do the job. So it's not like we're lowering the standards, which is what this anti-rhetoric is basically saying. They're basically saying, well, you're lowering the standards and you're only partnering with them because they're minority-owned. And I say, no, we're partnering with them because they're qualified business owners, and they just happen to be minority-owned. And so we have to kind of counteract that rhetoric, and this council is doing a fabulous job in bringing thought leaders together, like in this conference, bringing those that can help both the corporations and the minority business owners to join forces and be able to combat all of this craziness that's happening out there.
Clearly, what I'm hearing is that you believe that MBEs can change the nature of the American economy.
I
that they can
absolutely
contribute.
believe that.
I love it. How do you see your role going forward with the National Minority Supply Development Council?
Well, I want to be an advocate. I want to be an ambassador. I want to partner with our Chief Procurement Officer, Susanna Weber, and our leader of our economic inclusion and business diversity, Raul Suarez Rodriguez, and really coming together to say, how do we continue to keep striving? As I stated on the panel this morning, we have an aspirational goal of $4.4 billion spend with minority business owners by 2030. And that is a goal that we're only going to be able to reach if we're working together across our procurement organization, across our DE&I organization, across the company, and being able to work together to get alliances, help people to understand the importance of this work, help them to understand why we're doing it, and then showing them ways that they can partner and be advocates and ambassadors themselves. Because everybody knows in their community, regardless of how they identify, everyone knows someone who's an entrepreneur. They know that. They know someone who has a desire to partner with corporations. And so we need to make sure that we're helping to prepare them, we're educating them, we're letting them know about our process and our programs. And then once they are prepared, giving them that opportunity and that access, I think, is critical.
I think you're right. I mean, access to the business opportunity, capital is hugely important, and the collaboration amongst all of the folks, the stakeholders, who can make a difference to make those things happen. Your thoughts, and just, there's no perfect answer here, your thoughts on capitalization for business. It's one of the biggest challenges I've heard across this country in reference to being able to get the capital needed.
Yeah, it is a challenge, especially for minority-owned business owners. And you know, so many doors have been slammed in the faces of minority-owned business owners for over decades, probably, and I would argue, centuries. And so those same inequities have been creeping into the capital funding, the venture capitalists, all of them. And so I think in order for us to be able to really attack it, we have to go to the leaders. And the council is an example of that. Having the venture capitalists here as well is very, very important, Ariel Investments, and et cetera. And having them here to say, we are a partner, we're going to be part of this. But there needs to be education. And I think that the venture capitalists need to talk to the other venture capitalists and give that education, that awareness. Because, you know, we can come at them, corporations can come at them, minority business owners and the council can come at them. But if capitalists are talking to venture capitalists, other venture capitalists, and saying, you need to do this, here's the reason why, here's what we've gained out of it, they're talking the same language, I think that will help tremendously.
Return on investment goes a long way.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yes.
Based upon your experience, what are some of the obstacles that you've seen for minority businesses that you even have thought about some solutions for?
Well, one of them, at least I can say from over the years that I've been in this role and been closer to it, is the ignorance, the lack of awareness and understanding of the importance of it in corporations. And so if you don't have that understanding and awareness from the CEO all the way through to individual leaders in the organization, it's hard to be able to move the pendulum. So what we need to do is you start with the CEO, the CFO, and the executive teams of corporations, helping them to understand what we're trying to do, how we're trying to do it, the path for how we get there, the strategy for how we're do the sourcing, helping them to understand here's your aspirational goals and what you should be spending, here's the reason why, and here's your opportunities. You got to lay all of that out for business leaders so they understand it. And then the second piece is not just once you have that air coverage, if you will, at the executive level, you have to explain at each level of the organization and helping people to understand, even individual contributors, people who aren't people managers, people who don't have budgets, help them to understand how they can be advocates and ambassadors for this. Because it's going to take everybody for us to be able to reach these goals. Everyone in the organization, not just some, not just a few, but everybody has to do it. And that we partner with our employee business resource groups because they're bringing in speakers and different programs as well as part of the work that they do in evolving our culture within the organization. And so the organizations and the companies that they work with, we want to encourage them to be minority owned. And they bring in a lot of business to the company from that standpoint. So there's a lot of opportunity that I think that we're not capitalizing on in corporations. So those are some of the things that I just off the top of my head that I think that we have to do.
You know, you mentioned several touch points. As far as Merck Pharmaceuticals, what things are you doing, and just generally, relative to access to employment, continuous education about diversity, equity, and inclusion, making sure that there's no bias in the evaluation process, and as you will, any of those that you might address.
So our company's purpose when it comes to DE&I is to compel a more globally diverse workforce for our employees, surrounding them with an environment of belonging, engagement, empowerment is really important, and equity, so that they can do what it is they come to work every day to do, which is to save and improve lives. If they are thinking about how they have to cover when they come into work, if they're thinking about stress that's happening in their communities externally and not having a productive dialogue or outlet for it in the workplace, then they can't do what we need them to do. And we have the best scientists, arguably, the best scientists, the best engineers, the best salespeople.
I'm with that.
We have the best. And so the last thing that we want is something impeding that productivity, that innovation, that is the result of someone not treating them in a way that is showing value for who they are as an individual and how they identify. So we put a lot of things in place in the area of our people and workforce representation, making sure that we're analyzing the data. We understand what's happening, what's not happening, how we need to approach it. Where, are we acquiring talent? Are we getting them through the pipeline to the interview process and hiring? When it comes to learning and development, are they getting those opportunities to better themselves and develop themselves? We look at the training programs, who's going to them. We took away the manager nomination process because that was a barrier in itself. So if I want to go through some type of leadership training, I just basically have a conversation with my manager about when I can go, not if I can go. And so that was a big barrier because now we've empowered people in their own development. We look at our culture survey, and I cut the data every which way from Tuesday because I want to know what communities of employees, if they all view the culture the same way as those in the majority. And if there's any gaps in it, what are those interventions that we need to do to get after closing that gap? So we want to make sure that we have gender equity. We want to make sure that we have equity across all identities, those you can see and those you can't see. in the area of our business, we have to make sure that we're integrating DE&I into our drug discovery, development, manufacturing and supply, and marketing and sales pieces, because our patients are very, very diverse. And we know that across the globe in all the markets, that there are patients that are not experiencing the health outcomes that we want to because of various different, I call them isms, whether that be racism, sexism, homophobia, classism. It doesn't make a difference, but we have to make sure that we do what we can to pull those obstacles away. And that's where health equity comes in very strongly in our strategy, going out and understanding those barriers and then saying, okay, what do we need to do to break down those barriers? What's getting in the way of people being able to really experience healthiness and a healthy lifestyle? And it's not just our medicines. It's beyond the pill, beyond the vial. It's basically social determinants of health. Can they even get to the doctor? Do they have access to it? What is it that we need to be doing beyond that in the ecosystem? So there's so much that needs to be done in the area of DE&I that we have to be partnering with a multitude of different partners to be able to make that happen. When we contribute to minority-owned businesses, we know that it is putting food on the table of the employees, it's putting clothes on their children's backs, it's contributing to the economy because they're the ones that are hiring at a larger speed than even large, corporations, Fortune 500 corporations. That's where the belly of the beast is, and we have to make sure that we go there and we're helping to build the economy. So what are we doing? One of the programs that we have, that we partner with, that we're very proud of, is our partnership with Drexel University, where we bring minority owners and suppliers together and we say, okay, what is it that you need to learn from a leadership standpoint, from an operation standpoint, from an organizational standpoint, to help you to be a better CEO of your organization, of your company? And so these are all of the things that you need to be doing to try to just have a holistic, impactful DE&I strategy.
You are absolutely data-driven and evidence-based. The body of evidence out there shares that a sense of belonging leads to self-worth.
Yes.
Leads to the ability to be a critical thinker and solve problems. And certainly it sounds like you're creating that sense of belonging for your employees.
I'm trying to, John.
we appreciate you. Is there anything that you want to share about any topic around DE&I that we haven't covered?
I think the only thing I would say is that in all of this anti-DE&I rhetoric that's out there externally, that we keep on fighting, that we keep on going, and we lock arms and fight this battle together.
Awesome. Amplify the value that the American economy gets when MBEs are successful. And what you're doing is setting them up for success in the supply chain and through your employees. And we thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
That makes the world better. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate how busy your schedule is, but I appreciate you taking just a few minutes with us to share your head, your heart, your habit, and your hands.
Oh,
we appreciate it. Blessings to you and your family, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.